And welcome to Online. I'm Doug Coy. What is it about our society that causes so many children to be abused? Are you a survivor of childhood abuse? What are you doing to get on with your future? Tonight, your phone calls and our guest. In studio, Candace Newton. She's a broadcaster and a survivor. Then a little later, Paul McClelland will be along to tell us about Hot Rod High. Now, how's that helping today's youth? Also, Cops for Cancer racing to find a cure. Right now, your calls, 1-866-NOW-TV10. What can be done to conquer the hell of child abuse? Well, with me in the studio, as I mentioned, is Candace Newton. Candace, good to have you here.
Thanks, Doug.
Very powerful story that we've witnessed. Oprah Winfrey, a number of years, shocked America when she came out and she said, I am a person that has suffered from child abuse. And in her case, it was sexual. And happened when she was 9 years of age. She was raped by, I believe, her cousin. And then over the next number of years, 3 other family members. Mm-hmm. And she openly talked about that. And it just kind of opened up the floodgates.
It did.
And it's very powerful. Now, you also are here tonight because you have a story to tell. You're I guess, a survivor is the way you put it, of child abuse, and especially in the area of violence. Mm-hmm. Tell me a little bit about that. What happened in your life?
Well, in our life growing up, our parents themselves were struggling with their own issues, and so in our home it was really very much a fight to survive. It was really like a war zone. Every day it was a war zone. You didn't know what to expect. You didn't know if you would get ripped out of your bed in the middle of the night. You didn't know if your breakfast would end up on the table or on the floor. You just never knew what to expect. You lived in a constant state of tension because there was just so much anger and so much pain, so much animosity, and of course children being young are the perfect victims. And I had 2 experiences. I witnessed domestic violence, so I actually witnessed my mother being abused. But I also was the subject of it as well as my siblings. So it really was a very tremendous, horrendous experience for a child.
So how did that play out in your own personal life? I mean, so much of our life is developed at a very early age, the psychology and where we're going, how we view life, all of that type of thing. People tell us before the age of 7, the formative years, it's such a powerful time. And here you are experiencing all this kind of, well, it's a war zone.
Yes. How
did that affect you as you grew older and went into your life?
Well, it does affect you. First of all, you have confidence issues. When you are a child in a war zone, your desire is to survive. You're not developing your personality. You're not developing qualities of coping mechanisms that are healthy. You're not having trials that are presented to you in a normal way. You're constantly in a survival mode. So one of the things that you do is you're massively reactive. Everything about you is reactive. Someone says something to you, you react. You're always on a state of alert. You just don't know what's coming. And so you never have that time or that moment to think through how you're going to choose to respond to something. So for me, I was, in that environment until I finally ran away from home. I think the first time I ran away, I was 12. And I basically relied upon myself. As a child, you feel like there are no adults that you can trust or rely on. So you try to rely on yourself, and no 12-year-old can raise themselves, and yet that was my attempt. And really what I had to do was raise myself. I had to work through the really tremendous issues of self-esteem. In fact, for a long time, I didn't know how to socialize. So what I would do is I would watch other people that I perceived were socializing in a healthy way, and I would mimic their behavior. Julia Roberts had a great statement. She said, fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
And so that's what I had until I was able to learn those skills. I sort of learned them from the outside in. And I copied them. I was a great copier. And I was able to portray that. And that allowed me to experience a normal, healthy response, even though it wasn't true to me at the moment. And it allowed me to make some adjustments in my own development and growth. But it was very, very difficult. You deal with self-esteem issues. You're unsure of yourself.
Going back to our show, and I want you to comment on this, because the young lady that started off the program on the Oprah special, you could just see the pain in her face. And then the thing that hit me, well, we'll talk about that in a second, is how normal things seemed on the outside. But let's take a look at one of the clips of this lady talking about her abuse and what she went through. So let's take a look.
Beginning probably up until I was 11, there was just really just heavy, you know, petting, touching, and probably like oral sex. But then when I was 11 or 12, it started to become intercourse, and really frequently, maybe once or twice a week.
There were times in my mind when I couldn't wait for her to mature more, to be ready for intercourse. But at the same time, I refrained, thinking at the same time that that was, you know, it just can't go that far. I can stop it before then. And I couldn't.
Yeah, so here we see a mother and a father. Father had been abusing his child very early age, and here the daughter is later on in life. You could just see, as she's relating this, the pain.
Of course.
How did you ever get over the pain of your childhood and working through that?
That's a great question. That's a very good question.
Because we mask it.
Yeah, we do.
Does it still hit you? I mean, is it still down there?
No, I think the beautiful thing for me is that what I have is a scar. You look at the scar, but the scar has no pain attached to it because I was able to work very, very hard to understand what was going on. So for me, it was probably maybe 15 years ago, I might have said, oh yeah, it's still a little bit painful, because the work of getting well is tremendously hard. The work of getting well is it's a challenge.
Yeah, I've heard this now. We've been doing these shows the last couple days.
Yeah.
And everybody talks about the work that's involved.
It's great work. It really is. You have a choice. I mean, I consider myself no different than anyone else who has a challenge. I think my heart goes out to individuals like this young woman, because I think sexual abuse is really against your own soul.
Yeah.
I was able to extract myself physically from the physical violence, but I think that stays with your soul. It's a different dynamic. But for myself, I really had a choice in front of me. I understood at a very young age. I got it. Something clicked inside my brain. This is a broken man. This is a broken man. This isn't about me. And a broken man, broken family.
And that was kind of the key, that it wasn't just about you.
That's it.
Because
that's the saving
you want to
grace.
internalize it and say, well, there must have been something wrong with me.
Well, children will. They will automatically do that. That was a saving grace for me, to get to that realization at such a young age. This isn't about me.
Wow.
It's directed at me, but it isn't about me. And at a certain point in my life, I made an internal decision. I basically said to my father, you know, Daddy, I really love you, but this is your pain, and I don't want it. And I'm not carrying it with me.
Powerful stuff.
Yeah.
All right, Candace Newton is with us. We have a lot more to talk about. Sarah is hanging on the line. We will take phone calls, 1-866-NOW-TV10. How have you dealt with your family violence, whether it be sexual, physical, or abusive speech, that type of thing, which can be very tough. We'll come back and talk right after this.
Up next, we're in New West, talking to people about child abuse.
Now TV guests appearing on Online receive a copy of Family First by Dr. Phil McGraw, courtesy of Simon & Schuster Canada.
Closed captioning provided by Heart House Restaurant on Deer Lake in Burnaby. Heart House Restaurant, renowned dining in a serene environment only minutes from downtown.
I see you're drinking Diet Pepsi. Is there anything else youthful you'd like to experience?
Yeah, I'd like my old van back. On second thought, I'll stick with my Diet Pepsi.
Taste the one that's forever young. Diet Pepsi.
The 2004 Mitsubishi Endeavor, 2,163 liters of intelligent cargo space. And with a 3.8-liter V6 standard Sportronic transmission, it still starts around $35,000. And now through November 1st, get great clearance deals like 0% purchase financing for 60 months on all remaining 2004 Mitsubishis. Hurry, offer ends soon.
got plans? Big or small? Bring them to any one of more than 400 Home Building Center locations. We help turn plans into jobs well done. Home Building Center, we've got your lumber and everything else you need.
Arlene's Interiors brings your home to life. We asked Karen about the benefits of custom decorating.
Custom is something that fits your home, fits your personality. It's very important to appeal to the person that's living in the home rather than to the decorator. I'm trying to find what would best suit you so that we can pull it together and really have your home be a reflection of your own personality.
Arlene's Interiors, now open in Langley. Save up to 50% store-wide at all 3 locations.
Deliciously good V8 vegetable cocktail has 2 full servings of vegetables. Because sometimes what you eat doesn't. V8. Drink smart.
This program is presented in part by Lakota Joint Care System, a legendary Native American formula for pain relief.
Now TV encourages the expression of a wide variety of views during this program. However, Now TV does not necessarily share or endorse these points of view.
I'm Jessica Kendrell, and we're in New West today talking to people on the street about child abuse and what we can do as a society to help prevent it.
I think a lot of it's to do with educating children, educating family and friends, just people in general around signs of abuse.
Stop kids from having kids and make, I guess, protection more available to the youth.
The government should put more offices or for the kids so they can reach and more available for them.
We can lead by example and with our own character of who we are, and I think rather than thinking kids or people are bad, that we should try to be more inclusive in terms of everything that we do.
We all have to take responsibility for the children that we know, not be afraid to stand up for these kids if we see abuse going on. I'd like to say that some people shouldn't have kids, but the fact of the matter is that a lot of people do who are not adequately equipped to become parents. That is a problem I'm not sure how to solve. I mean, there may be a way to maybe have some kind of program or something, but the problem is that a lot of people who do actually have a problem don't believe that they have a problem. So they may think that they're actually doing just fine, or they don't care enough.
And welcome back to Online. A very powerful, alarming special we had tonight. Oprah was hosting it and talking about child abuse. In this case, sexual child abuse, but child abuse comes in many different forms. Sometimes the worst is the psychological abuse, putting down of a child, the power plays that are there. Candace Newton is with us. She's a broadcaster. She's a survivor, experienced her own abuse as a child in the home. And out of the special that we saw, one of the clips that touched me was how normal everything can seem on the outside. Here's a man that an engineer. He's also an elder in his own church. Let's go back and take a look at this clip.
My dad was an usher at church. You know, Mom was part of the PTA. It was really important to look good to everyone else because it looked so bad from the inside.
Yeah, so there you go. Elder in the church. Mom was with the PTA. Everybody would say, this is a very normal, healthy family. Mm-hmm. How about your family? You know, people looking at you and say, you know, abuse? Are you kidding me? I mean, would somebody say that from the outside?
No, because, you know, we had a beautiful home. My father had a good career. You know, my mom was a, you know, stay-at-home mom. From the outside, it did appear normal. Except for when the police showed up, of course, then. And then that was, you know, my parents' great work at trying to cover up their own embarrassment. But it's imperative, that's part of one of the things that keeps abuse alive, is this environment that manifests the secrecy. That's what keeps it functioning. And so, you know, exposing it and getting it out, bringing it to light is imperative for the restoration of those children or who's ever surviving it.
All right, let's take some phone calls. We have a full board tonight. Sarah. Hi, Sarah. Thank you for calling in.
Hi.
Hi. Your comments tonight, Sarah.
I was abused myself for quite a long time. There's two different forms of abuse. I was molested for 5 years, as well as raped. And I just think that the sooner you can tell somebody, the better. It's a healing process. It's always continuing. With me, it's still continuing. But the sooner you can talk to someone, the sooner it can stop.
How long before you were able to talk about it, Sarah?
About 5 years after it had stopped.
How did you ever get the courage to talk about it?
I actually got the courage by watching a program quite similar to this. It was a movie, and it had brought back some of the memories, and I just couldn't keep holding it back anymore.
Good for you, Sarah. Good for you to find the courage to get well, because that's really what it is. It takes tremendous courage, and my heart goes out to you. My situation is not the same, but I have had experience with girls who've had your challenges, and my heart goes out to you. And you know, you're an incredible woman to be able to talk about it and to face that.
That really is the key. I mean, I think this is what Oprah, in her way, did by coming out openly on her show and saying, "This is what happened to me." And the floodgates just opened up.
And it's true, and we have a lot to thank this Oprah for opening up her life like that. And that's, you know, it's the same reason why I've chosen to open up mine, because it gives people the courage to say, okay, she's gone through this, she's challenged it, she's overcome it, maybe I can too. And it's giving that hope back to people where there is no hope, to give them that hope that they can.
I want to come back and talk to you about the cycle of abuse. We'll get to that in a second. How do we break that cycle? But let's talk to Cheryl right now. Hi, Cheryl.
Hi, I really enjoyed your show tonight, and I just found this whole thing amazing, these men talking out about what they did and how badly they feel. You could really see the pain and feel it. And I'm just so glad that there are shows like this, because it tells me that the world is waking up and no longer in denial, the way I was raised and my mother and that whole cycle that was just, you know, kept silent. So I'm really glad to see this. I was abused all my life. I was molested by an older brother, and I was raped when I was 13, and then again when I was 17. And unlike a lot of my sisters and friends from the 1960s and 70s, they started using drugs and were really influenced by the drug culture of the 1960s and 70s. I never gave in to that. I turned to God, and not religion. I turned to God and asked God to help me. Now, my brothers and sisters used to laugh at me and mock me, and my friends used to say, "Oh, religion's for the weak, and it's just a crutch for people that are really weak." Well, what I'd like to say is that 30 years have passed, and these same people are still drug addicted, alcoholics, junkies. Some of them are prostitutes, and they chose, unlike me, to cure or help their pain. They were abused too, but they chose to deal with their pain through drugs and alcohol. And my response to them back in the 70s was, I'd rather use God as a crutch than drugs and alcohol. So I'm not coming from a place of judgment. Okay, we were all in the same boat together. And
we all have a choice on that. Yeah.
But I asked God to help me. So now, and I told them, alcohol and drugs lead to destruction. God doesn't. And I still go to bed every night. I pray to God. I say, thank you, God, for giving me the strength. And some days I don't even have the strength to pray to God. I just go to bed and I'm just sick.
Good,
Cheryl. And I shut it off, and I say, another day when I can deal with it. But most of the time I have peace, and I've built a really good life for myself.
Well, thank you very much for your call, Cheryl, and I'm hearing your sincerity, and it is a very good call in that area. I think that brings up an important point, because often when we do go through difficult times in our childhood, we look for ways to, some people call it escape. Did you ever do that?
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah. You're a child. You're a child trying to cope with tremendous amounts of overwhelming adult problems that you can't deal with. Oh, yeah, I was left home, ran away, lived on the streets in Vancouver. And
you lived on the streets in Vancouver?
Oh, yes. Blood Alley was a favorite place to sleep.
What was that like?
Well, it was the lesser of two evils. It's for me, it was, at least I can control this environment. For me, for me, I could pay attention to maybe protect myself. There's quite a family on the street. You develop quite a family life, because we're social people. So we will go right back into that family life again. So it was tough, but you numb yourself.
And you have people that, in a funny way, understand
absolutely
what you're going through, because they're going through the same thing.
Well, the common ground is pain, right? That's the common ground.
Yeah.
You're sharing that pain. They're quite compassionate, quite empathetic with one another, because we're all out there for a reason. But she said something very interesting, and that, Cheryl, and by the way, all these people that call in, I just, my heart breaks to hear their pain, but also their incredible courage to work through that. And good for you, Cheryl and Sarah and these ladies that have called in. But for the point is that when we are hurting somebody else, we are not capable of feeling at that moment. And what she's saying is she chose to feel and to work through that pain, and maybe others are not able. The pain is too intense. Yeah. So everybody handles their pain very differently, and I don't know why myself or someone like Cheryl had the courage to face that pain, but it does take the courage to do that, otherwise the cycle continues.
One of the things I'd like to do right now as we go to this break is showing the kind of one of the final clips from the show where this young lady is talking to other people that might be thinking about abusing a child. And I thought that was a pretty courageous thing for her to do. So as we go out to the break, I just thought, there might be somebody out there tonight that is maybe physically abusive to a child or going through some things. Take a look at what this young lady has to say. And it's pretty powerful stuff. So as we go to break, we'll be back, have another segment with Candace Newton, and we'll take more phone calls. Matter of fact, the whole next segment we'll take calls. So here's this young lady talking to whoever might be thinking of abusing a child.
What she was not getting was the fact that I was a very sad kid. If this was such a great family, why was I so sad? Why couldn't I look people in the eye? And why did I walk funny?
This program is presented in part by Lakota Joint Care System, a legendary Native American formula for pain relief.
When your shocks are shot, bring your car to Budget Brake and Muffler, your ride control experts.
For all your automotive needs, come in and see us at Budget.
Budget Brake and Muffler.
St. Andrew's Church Supply has served the community with Christian books and religious items for 20 years. For all your church requirements, you can shop online at standrewschurchsupply.com or come in and browse at 275 East 8th Avenue, Vancouver.
Dream Carpets, one of Canada's largest carpet superstores, has the largest selection and biggest display of carpet, area rugs, laminates, hardwood, and granite tiles. The absolute lowest prices, guaranteed installation. Dream Carpets, Vancouver, Richmond, and Surrey.
It's finished.
Wow, that only took you 3 years?
Funny. Hey. Want to go for a drive?
I thought we were going for a drive. They don't still do that, do they?
Nope.
But you know, I still have to be home by 10.
Velocity meets versatility. The all-new Hemi-powered Dodge Magnum. Open it up from either end.
Some people don't realize at Budget we do more than brakes and mufflers. At Royal, we do full automotive. So whatever your vehicle needs, come on into Budget.
Budget, 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 brake and muffler. Budget, budget.
Solving crime through community support. Crime Stoppers.
The Langley RCMP and Crime Stoppers are seeking the public's assistance with regards to a bank robbery on Friday, August 28, 2002 at the Scotiabank at approximately 11:10 a.m. One of the suspects jumped the counter and the other went through the swing gate. One suspect carried a silver handgun. It was a very aggressive type of bank robbery, yelling, cursing, and demanding no die packs. As suspects left the bank, they shouted, "Have a nice day, ladies." Suspect 1 is described as 5'7" to 5'10". Suspect 2 is described as being taller than Suspect 1, slim, wearing dark-colored pants. They escaped in the vehicle but was left running at the front of the bank.
If you have information regarding this or any other crime, call Crime Stoppers. You never have to give any personal information. You may be entitled to an award up to $2,000.
Crime Stoppers reenactments on Now TV, proudly supported by Simmons Mattress Gallery. We're Vancouver's mattress professionals, located on the corner of West Broadway and Oak Street.
I would say to anybody else who's like my dad, who wants to do the things my dad did, I know you have problems. Don't take it out on your kids, because it's not their fault. You know, don't create this hell that you live in for them too.
What a powerful statement she said. Don't create the hell that you're living in for them also. Very powerful. We're going to take calls, as many as we can, this segment. My guest is Candace Newton. She's a broadcaster. She's a survivor, has a lot to say, and we'd like to hear what you have to say, to be honest with you. Susan is on the line. Hi, Susan.
Hi.
So what's on your mind tonight?
Well, my granddaughter was sexually abused by her stepfather, and by the time she did tell the ministry, the children's ministry, but by the time the police became involved, my granddaughter recanted her story. She was sent to the best child psychologist for sexual abuse in BC by the ministry, and the ministry, or that doctor, felt that something had happened. Went to family court. He was not allowed in the house. And anyway, he's back in the house now, and my granddaughter is, not talking about it. And you say that they're supposed to talk about it. How can they? How can little girls talk about it when they're been told not to by someone? And what happens to them when they grow up?
What do you say, Candace?
Susan, my heart just goes out to you, to your baby, to that little one that's with you. You're right. As a child, they don't have a voice, and that's the tough thing right now, is that adults have to be that voice for those children. And it's I just feel her pain is just so intense.
Why is it so hard for us as adults to miss the signs? I mean, we saw the clip just before we went to break where she said, why weren't people picking up on what was going on in my life?
Yeah. I think it's because it depends on our life and how much of the degree of involvement we have. For instance, using my story or somebody else's story, I'm acutely aware. I'm highly sensitive. So I'm aware of those signs and would watch them like a hawk. And my responsibility would be to teach that. And I think really in the education system, like for instance last night you had the Violence Preventable program, fantastic place to begin to look for signs in those children. Because it is, when you see a child normal, carefree, happy playing, that's a good sign. But when you see children that are withdrawn, when they are not looking you in the eye, when they have no confidence, or when they're acting out aggressively, there's something wrong. That is an oil light, like on a car. Pay attention, and a lot of times win that child's confidence, be gentle with them, and, support them in whatever way you can. And for Susan, we really need to address what she's saying. What you can do right now, Susan, for this child is, be that voice. Be that voice for that child, because she can't speak for herself, quite obviously. Be that support for her and comfort her. And she'll know that you're there for her. She will know. And when she's ready, she will. I'll be able
Sharon's
to.
on the line. Hi, Sharon.
Hi.
And your thoughts tonight?
I just feel so glad that I had the courage to phone in because I've wanted to before, and every time I see a show like this, it brings it right back to me. I was raped when I was 6 years old, and I'm 61 today, and it still brings. Still, I'm just shaken to the core watching this show. And excuse me.
Have you gotten help? Has she gotten help?
Yes, I finally told someone about it when I was 55 years old.
55.
Bless your heart.
I couldn't share it with anybody, and I got help. Even with the help and the counseling and the groups and all the rest of it, it still is within me.
Oh, yeah.
And it still hurts, and I still have the rage. And you should have more shows like this. Your phone will never stop ringing. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon.
Bless your heart, Sharon. Poor thing.
Well, you don't have to need to say a whole lot after a call like that. That's,
No.
I mean, when we talk about how much the pain and what is affecting when a child is young and how much it stays with them and can stay with them.
Oh, absolutely.
Carrie is on the line. Hi, Carrie.
Hi. I'm so grateful for the show. It has helped me make a decision. I myself was molested twice by my stepbrother, and I confronted him and asked him for a letter of an apology, which I did receive, but it didn't make me feel any better. And I'm just thinking, should I just confront him face to face?
Good question.
I'm not a counselor, Sharon, but my suggestion to you is that you get some support before you make your decisions, because that's part of the, you may confront someone and think that it's going to work well for you, but they may have their defenses in place and react to you and just further your pain. My recommendation, highly recommend, is that you get some support. Maybe up in a little bit you'll be able to see our website, my Unlocking Secrets for Women website, and we do have resources on there that you can connect to, and there's counselors and sources that you can connect to. My advice to you is really to get some good counseling that will provide you with support, and they will guide you through whether or not it's a good to confront.
Yeah, because that is a very difficult decision
It's
to
very
make.
painful.
From the programs that I have seen so far, the specials that we've had, some of these things work out. Some of them are a disaster.
And you need support.
And you need a support group
you do.
going in,
You need to have
if
some
at all
support.
possible. All right, Candace, you're going to stay with us.
Yes.
And Paul McClelland is coming on. It is neat to know that there are people out here. Now, Paul has worked with children that have been abused. He's been doing this for about 20 years. They've come up with this thing to connect with young people. And I think that's so key. How do we connect and relate to young people? It's called